Hey everyone, welcome to part one of a three-part series sponsored by Global X Investments Canada, where we will go over some of their new funds or new ETFs that have recently launched. So in case you didn't know, Horizons ETFs, a very well-known ETF provider in Canada, has rebranded to Global X Investments Canada. So in case you missed it, I do have a video where I do a Q&A with Ms. Stephanie Wolf, Executive VP at Global X Investments Canada to discuss the rebrand. So make sure to check it out in case you missed it. But recently, they also launched a little over 15 brand new ETFs. Some of them are growth oriented, some of them are income oriented. So what we're going to do in this episode or part one is go over the brand new growth oriented ETFs that they recently launched. In part two, we will go over the income-oriented ETFs. And in part three, we will do a Q&A, very excited about this, with an options strategist at Global X Investments Canada to discuss their income-oriented ETFs, their covered call ETFs in detail. So it's a very important series because there's some really unique and innovative ETFs that they came out with. So let's check out the growth ones right now. So here is the Global X Investment Canada article, which came out a little earlier and basically announced the rebrand and the upcoming product launches. I'm on their website. You could just go to news, by the way, and access this article. But what I really like about it is that if you scroll down, you will actually see all the brand new ETFs that are coming out and their launch date. Most of them have been launched here, but we're going to, again, like I mentioned earlier in the intro, focus on the growth ones here. So in terms of growth, you have these ones here, which we're going to cover in today's video. There's also two new thematic or sector specific ETFs we'll take a look at real quick, and then a few enhanced growth ETFs as well. You see them here, right? So let's cover all these ETFs, all these brand new ETFs together. Now we'll start with the two thematic ones here. So just like it says here, these two, right? So the Global X Artificial Intelligence and Technology Index ETF and the Global X Innovation Blue Chip Top 10 Index ETF. So let's take a look at them real quick. Let's start with the AI1 and Technology Index ETF, AIGO. First thing I always like to look at, what are the stocks? What is in AIGO? Obviously, like the name says, we're looking at AI and technology stocks most likely. So if you go to holdings, you'll see that this ETF actually holds another ETF. It's the Global X Artificial Intelligence and Tech ETF, AIQ. This is actually a US listed ETF by Global X as well, right? So here's the ETF that you're basically investing in when you're investing in AIGO. So it's AIQ, and should be no surprise, everyone. They're going to be companies related to AI, but not only technology companies as well. So if you actually look at the holdings, and by the way, very, very big ETF here, almost $2 billion in assets. But let's take a look real quick at some of the holdings here. You'll recognize a lot of them. You see NVIDIA as a top one, Tencent as well, Qualcomm, and Amazon and Microsoft, IBM. So a lot of technology companies here, guys, but also other sectors as well, other companies that are going to benefit from the AI and innovation. So you see some the sector breakdown here, but most of it is going to be in technology companies, but there's also industrial companies, a little bit of healthcare. So this is a great way if you really want to, as a Canadian, access an ETF which is going to be hold stocks and hold companies that are really going to benefit or are researching or that they're involved in artificial intelligence, mostly technology companies, right? The second one also is very innovation and AI focused as well. It's TTTX, the Global X Innovation Blue Chip Top 10 Index ETF. So if we go to the holdings, there's 10 securities in here. You'll recognize pretty much a lot of them. Of course, you have NVIDIA again, you have Alphabet, which is Google, Apple, Lilly, a healthcare company that's doing AI research and things like that. Microsoft, Amazon, also Novo Nordisk, a semiconductor company from Taiwan. You have BYD, which specializes in electric cars in China. And then you also have an ETF, the Global X China Electric Vehicle and Battery ETF. So everything that has to do with innovation, but focusing on blue chip stocks. That's why they have blue chip in the title here. So really cool way to get it's 10 stocks. There is one ETF out of that, so there's several things inside of it, but a little bit more concentrated way of getting access to some of the best innovative companies around the world. As we saw, there's some things outside of North America. So that's it for the two brand new thematic or sector specific ETFs that Global X has launched. And just a reminder, if they have a bunch of thematic ETFs, the best way you could look for them is you go to click on our ETFs here on their website and just use the filter to go to product range and just choose thematic here, and you click apply, and you'll get all the sector specific or thematic ETFs that Global X Canada has. You could go scroll through them here, hit load more to make sure you load all of them, and you could see the two brand new ones that we discussed are here at the bottom, but there's a bunch of other ones relating to cybersecurity, metaverse, robotics, all kinds of stuff. Of course, their biggest one here with the most assets is a semiconductor one. So feel free to check it out if you like investing in specific sectors. If you feel very strongly about a specific sector, you could use one of these ETFs, which in my opinion, of course, lowers your risk or doesn't give you the need of stock picking. It lowers your risk of picking and choosing individual stocks. You could go with the ETF. So now let's go ahead and review the other more broad-based, index-based growth ETFs that Global X has launched. All right, guys, moving on to their new Equity Essentials ETFs. These are very simple to understand. They're basically index-based, very, very big and popular indexes. So, of course, you have the S&P 500, the TSX 60, which is, top 60 companies in Canada, the NASDAQ 100, of course. You also have the MSCI EAFE Index ETF, and you have an emerging markets one. So, guys, it's not really complicated to understand. Let's go through them real quick. USSX is going to be the S&P 500 Index ETF. So we all know what the S&P 500 is, right, everyone? No complications there. QQQX is the NASDAQ 100. So also US focused, top 100 companies on the NASDAQ, more technology focused than the S&P 500. But here you have two of the most popular and biggest indexes covering the US stock market. You have the TSX 60, which covers Canada. TSX 60, very, very popular index that covers the majority of the stock market and companies in Canada. But you also have the MSCI EAFE Index ETF, which covers basically developed countries outside of North America. So you have it here. It's mostly, it's Europe, Australasia, and the Far East, excluding US and Canada. So it's basically, the biggest chunk is going to be dominated by the big four in Europe, which is the UK, France, Germany, Switzerland, typically, and also quite a bit of Japan and Australia as well. So developed economies outside of North America. Then, of course, you have emerging markets, which we know what it is, right? These are countries that have emerging markets. So things, would be things like China, Taiwan, South Korea, India, Mexico, Brazil, etc., etc., etc. So these are very popular and standard index-based growth ETFs, low fees. You could check them out on their website as well. Now moving on to the last of the growth ETFs I want to cover, and honestly the ones I'm personally most excited about, the enhanced growth one. So let's check them out together. So before we continue, just a reminder that those big, very popular 5 index ETFs, if you don't want to pick and choose them, there's also HEQT. So this is not a new ETF, but it's worth mentioning. This is basically the Global X All Equity Asset Allocation ETF. And if you look at the holdings, it will have a combination of those 5 index ETFs that we took, that we looked at basically. So this is a great one-stop shop if you just want, hey, I don't want to pick and choose my indexes, but I like index investing. Is there an ETF that has all of them together? This is the one for you, HEQT. It's basically one-stop shop to get some of the best stocks via the most popular indexes all around the world. And there is a lot of competition for this type of product. But one thing that stands out to me with the Global X one is that HEQT, although it has a very low distribution yield, these are not income-oriented products or growth-oriented products. But a big difference is that HEQT actually has monthly distribution starting in sometime in 2023. You see that now they have monthly distributions, which is, some people might like that. So I just wanted to mention that, again, HEQT, an all-in-one solution with those 5 index ETFs from Global X all in one place. Now let's go through what I feel is a very, very unique and innovative twist on those popular index funds. So they came out with an additional 4 ETFs, index-based again, and basically you just change the X of the ETF name to an L. So USSX becomes USSL. If you just look at the L instead of the X, you get the enhanced. You'll see that the word enhanced is in the names of these ETFs. So USSL is the Global X Enhanced. S&P 500, and QQQL is the Global X Enhanced NASDAQ 100 ETF, etc., etc. So there's USSL for the S&P 500, QQQL for the NASDAQ 100. They have EAFL instead of X, of course, for the MSCI EAFE index, EMML for the emerging markets, and for the TS60, they actually had one already. It's CANL. So why does it say enhanced in these ones? Well, it's very simple, guys. It's basically the index or the corresponding index with 25% leverage. That's why you see here you have basically 125% exposure to the performance of the corresponding index, which in case of USSL is the S&P 500. So it's quite simple, guys. If you just go in holdings, it will basically have approximately 125% exposure to that index. So they're basically using a little bit of leverage, 25% leverage, to enhance the performance of the underlying ETF. Of course, this comes with more volatility because you're using leverage. It's more volatility and also higher fees as well. So you will see, this one is brand new. So we're not going to see the MER fee for at least a year. But if we look at the Canadian one, which has been out for quite a while here, you see that the MER is 1.84. It's very important to remember that the leverage expense or the borrowing costs of that leverage will reflect in the MER. That's why the MER is higher with the leveraged product. So now we literally have leveraged versions of those indexes, and you have the corporate class. So there's basically 3 versions of each of the 5 popular index ETFs to choose from. So why would anyone want to get the enhanced one versus just the regular one, right? Why would you get USSL versus USSX? Well, it's if you want a little bit more, if you want some leverage, you're more bullish, right? You're holding it for the long term and you feel like, okay, I think the S&P 500 is going to go up over time. And of course, you don't mind the extra volatility. Getting the leverage version could mean higher performance over time if the index goes up, but it also could mean more downside during the bad times as well. Volatility basically works both ways. So I think these are extremely unique. They're very innovative. These are very unique. We do have leveraged, for example, covered call ETFs on the Canadian market, but these are really innovative. They're the first of its kind, in my opinion, from what I could see, where they're using a little bit of leverage on just an index fund. So this could be great for bullish long-term investors that want more enhanced performance, don't mind a little bit of leverage and more volatility, because this is hands-off leverage. This is not leverage you're taking with your account. This is all managed by the fund manager. Of course, you do have to expect higher MER fees because they include the leverage. So you have 3 great options for each of these 5 indexes, guys. And again, if you don't want to pick and choose your index, there's also HEQL. So HEQL is basically 25% leverage version of HEQT. So if you look at what's inside, it's just 125% exposure to HEQT. So again, you have HEQT for if you want all 5 indexes in one ETF, HEQL, same thing, but with 25% leverage. So fantastic options here to get your equity essentials, right? This is all under the equity essentials a series from Global X, and you literally have 3 choices. You have the corporate class one, which has no distributions, could be very tax efficient and non-registered, especially at higher tax brackets. You have just the regular basic index versions here. That would be, the USSX and QQQX, etc. And then you have the slightly leveraged versions as well, in case you're looking for higher performance and you don't mind the volatility. So I absolutely think this is great. These are great options. Very, very unique. I especially like the all-in-one ones as well, right? Whether it's the HEQT or HEQL, if you're up to some leverage. So really, really unique. So I think these are awesome, awesome ETFs. I hope that you understand the difference between, the 3 versions of the index funds. But again, make sure to check out, their article and to see all the new ETFs that are coming out. Episode 2, we will focus on the income-oriented ETFs. They have come out with new covered call ETFs, some leverage, some non-leverage. So we'll check all those out in the 2nd episode. Very excited about that. And again, don't hesitate to use our ETFs search feature to search what you're looking for, right? If you want to, for example, look for the S&P 500, all the S&P 500 types of ETFs, you just put 500 and search, and you'll get the list of the ones related to the S&P 500. Put NASDAQ 100, put TSX 60, etc., etc. I really like this search tool. You could also use the filters as well. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you to Global X Investment Canada for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you next time.